Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, click that subscribe button. Trust us, it'll be worth it. Thank you. What is up, everyone? I'm Chris Knight, and you are watching The Real Review 3000, where we just don't ask for your subscription, we demand it. Yes, that's right. We're just going to jump right to it, guys. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, smash the like button, hit the bell so you know when we're coming out with new stuff. And don't forget this number right here, 4901. We didn't make it to our 5,000 subscriber goal by the first of the year, but that's okay. I'm going to give you guys another chance. We're going for 7,500 now by March 15th, which is my birthday. And if you get me to 7,500 subscribers by that time, I will do a 72-hour stream. I'm still offering that. And we're going to have lots of people on, gaming, all sorts of fun stuff, guys. I'll make it really exciting and fun for you guys. Now, in an effort to ramp up the pop culture stuff, I'm going to start this new segment called Chris Knight's WTF Rant. That's what we're going to call this. And what does that mean? That means I'm going to complain or talk about or read the riot act to people who I have an issue with. This week, let's start off and just say it's going to be about Jodie Whittaker and Doctor Who, the DCEU, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Preferably Star Wars, the High Republic stuff that they just showed, and maybe even Marvel. I don't know. Let's just talk about this. The disconnect that Hollywood and IPs now have with their true root base. The people that made these things what they were. Star Trek, for instance, started back in the 60s, and it was all about inclusion and stuff at the outset, on the onset. They did everything inclusively without ramming it down your throat. Today, things like Discovery and Picard seem to make it like we have to be very in your face about being inclusive, or that it's all about involving everybody. But Star Trek was originally about that. That's exactly what Star Trek was about, without having to say that's what it was about. You just kind of felt that way. Everybody was there, all the alien races. Didn't matter what color your skin was. Didn't matter where you came from. You had people from Iowa. You had people from Klingon. I mean, you had people from everywhere. And they all kind of, in one way or another, coexisted. Klingons occasionally would figure out how to work with the Federation, or the Ferengi would learn how to work with, the Federation, or any one of these things. These people just learned to coexist in a way that it worked. Nowadays, it seems like Discovery wants to force the issue, push the issue on you, and it doesn't really seem to want to let up. Gone are the days where writing's important, and now we're more about who can we put in a uniform that represents somebody or represents a group. I don't care if they can act. I don't care if they can really do the job. I just want somebody that looks the part. And that has really kind of soured a lot of the fandom. It's the same thing with Star Wars. This High Republic thing that's coming out, all these pictures I see, it's like, what the heck are they thinking? They just gave us Luke Skywalker at the end of The Mandalorian in all his glory. Everything we'd wanted to see since we saw The Last Jedi. We're like, oh wow, this is the Luke we wanted. This is the Luke from Return of the Jedi. This is the man that we've all waited to see. You got us. You had us hooked, guys. You baited that hook. You got us. Boom. And Filoni and Favreau, maybe they have nothing to do with the High Republic. I have no clue yet. I haven't really dug deep into it. But I'll tell you what. Looking at the pictures, you guys have totally lost your minds. You've lost your minds on what is important. You found it. You had it. Filoni and Favreau, while they may not be perfect, while they may not have everything right the way that it needs to be, they had a line on it. They were starting to get the fandom to say, oh, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's not perfect, but it's the step in the right direction. You say you're going to do Boba Fett. You say you're going to do Ahsoka. And we're looking at it going like, ooh, we're getting really enticed. And then you drop High Republic. The pictures from High Republic, all this stuff. And it's like, what the hell is this mess? And then you talk about, does Kathleen Kennedy even really have any tie to the fandom? I don't think she does. I think Filoni and Favreau do. And so again, we're at a disconnect. You got one group of people within Lucasfilm who seem to understand it, or at least get to the point where they're like, I think I can fix some of the division. And then you got Kathleen Kennedy who says, wait a minute. Let me take care of this. Here, hold my beer. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy seems like that's the type of person she is. Here, hold my beer. You've done your job. Now watch what I can do. And I'll link it right here, or right here in the cards. The video that I have about what I think Iger and Kennedy might be up to coming up here in the next year or so. Don't like to think of it, but I'll link it there. The DCEU, man, while I didn't hate Wonder Woman 84, it just seems like they don't want to tie it to the DCEU, but they do. And then you got the Snyder cut coming out, and while I'm interested in seeing it, it's like Warner Brothers is in this constant tug of war with themselves, saying, we admit the DCEU exists, we don't admit it. Some movies tie themselves to it, some don't. And again, this comes down to understanding what your fan base wants, or what your where your root fan base is. Those who liked the DCEU want the DCEU. Those who didn't probably left it behind. Wonder Woman was kind of that in between that everybody seemed to really like. And then when they went and did it, I think, again, they went too artsy and maybe tried to put something in it that people weren't really looking for, so it didn't quite hit, or it didn't give people exactly what they were expecting. So those of us who liked it were like, ooh, I see what they're trying to do, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of parts where Wonder Woman really isn't who she is. I mean, when she meets Steve Trevor as another person, she sees Steve immediately, but she doesn't concern herself with what happened to the person who Steve possessed, in lack of a better word. And Wonder Woman was always concerned about people and concerned for their well-being, and she's not worried about this guy anymore. She's just like, seconds after she sees Steve, she's like, I'm okay with this. So there are issues with that, but again, this comes down to writing, understanding your IPs. And in Hollywood these days, it's more about, let's just do what we want to do and not worry about who the character really is. We'll make the character what we want, and people will have to go with it. But again, you're alienating your fan base. You're alienating the people who made the character what it is. This is a problem that's going on right now in comic books. They're alienating all these people who have spent years collecting comic books or following a certain storyline. LDG Pixels, he constantly mentions Endgame, Marvel's Endgame, MCU Endgame, and how it is about the Infinity Gauntlet. And he's absolutely right when he says that they totally took the idea and literally just kind of said, here, we're gonna just give you the watered down version. We'll give you the very basics of what it is, and we'll add sprinkle a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they sprinkle just enough that it holds some comic book people there, and it brings new people who have no clue what the hell comic books are, have no clue who these characters are, but it's just enough for both sides to come in and go like, ooh, and they make the money, and they're like, here, look, we did what we needed to. But it does alienate the core group of people who understand comics. And MCU is showing more of that going into their Disney Plus series and their Phase 4. And it's going to be interesting if they can make it work, if Kevin Feige can make this all work. I like the MCU, but I do understand the problems. And again, they are on the cusp of taking a wrong turn and taking a franchise that has done very well to this point, for the most part, and literally making it take a nosedive straight down and just watch it burn. They're on a precipice right now that could cause them to fall down into the deepest, darkest pit of crap. We'll see what happens with them. And then just recently, Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker is out. Whether or not it is because not CBS, but BBC told her that she's out, or if she decided she's out, I kind of heard it was kind of a mutual thing. She kind of went to them and says, "Yeah, I think I'm done," and they said, "Oh, well, we were kind of going to tell you we're done with you." And if that's how it worked, well, fine and dandy. But I think Jodie Whittaker she is the pawn who has been used to basically execute her publicly to make it look like, she's the problem. But she took on a role, and yes, as an actress or an actor, when you take on a role and you're told, oh, don't watch any of the stuff before you. We don't want you to know anything about this IP. We don't want you to watch anything before your doctor. Most actors and actresses would probably need to say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to take this part. She did, and she did what she could with the writing. And again, this goes back to writing. Somebody who doesn't understand the IP, because when they do things like destroy TARDIS or, just the whole concept of things that I've heard about her series of Doctor Who is that they don't understand what the Doctor Who franchise is. And again, like Star Trek, like Star Wars, like the DC, DCEU, Marvel, these properties have been around for years. 1963, 64, I think, is when Doctor Who started. And until the 13th Doctor here, everything was fairly status quo. You stayed fairly true to the story and the characters and how it worked. The world building that was done was kept the same. When you have a showrunner and you have writers who say, ooh, I'm going to mix it up and change everything, they should stop and ask themselves, why? Why do I need to change anything? Was there anything about this that can't be kept the same and still do what I wish to do? If you want to push an agenda, there's nothing wrong with pushing an agenda. There's nothing wrong with virtue signaling sometimes. I mean, let's just think about this. There are right and wrong ways. And I always like to use the example coming out of the holiday season, especially of Scrooged. Scrooge is a retelling of A Christmas Carol. Bob Cratchit is Mr. Scrooge's clerk in A Christmas Carol. In Scrooged, Scrooge is played by Frank Cross. His Bob Cratchit is actually Grace, his secretary. Now, nobody thinks about this. Bob Cratchit is obviously a white male in A Christmas Story, or in A Christmas Carol. Grace is an African American or black lady in Scrooge, but she plays Bob Cratchit in that. Nowhere in the movie of Scrooged do they say that this is Bob Cratchit, or this is supposed to be Bob Cratchit, or look what we did. We changed Bob Cratchit's character from a white male to a black female. Nobody questions it because it works. It makes sense because we understand. We follow the story. It's not shoved in your face. This is a proper way of rewriting, reimagining, not totally flipping everything on its side, making sure you know, literally by having the actress or actor or somebody stop everything and say, look at me, I'm this, and you need to know about it. Scrooge did it right. If you want to look at things, look at Scrooge. Look at Ocean's 11. I've mentioned this as a rewrite or reboot. they've taken a property and honored it in a way where when you watch it, you don't even think about the original property. But when you stop and you do think about it, you're like, well, wait a minute. It is this. It's a remake of it, or a redo, or a reimagining. They changed this, this, and this. But when I was watching it, I didn't think about that. Hollywood needs to stop itself, and stop itself now, and say, what are we doing wrong? Do we need to be doing the things we're doing? If we want to add culture, if we want to add new people, new ideas, we need to do it within the confines of the original IP, the original idea, because it can be done. Star Trek is an inclusive universe. It doesn't need to force inclusion. It doesn't need to go out of its way. It is about inclusion. The whole idea was about inclusion. Star Wars didn't need to be genderized. I guess that's not a real word, but the Force isn't female, but the Force isn't male. It's there. It is. And to generalize it is to take it and take away from it. The idea behind Star Wars, when Kathleen Kennedy said that the Force is female, she took away from it, not gave to it. The DCEU, by not telling the fans what it's trying to do, it's taking away from the fans who can't follow a storyline because we don't know if this particular movie is in the storyline or not. If you really know the comics, you can kind of understand and follow that the Joker was an Elseworld story, and that probably the Batman will be an Elseworld story. And if they do come to do a Flashpoint movie, those of us who understand comics will understand that. But if you're just a generic, I want to watch this, you don't understand, is this part of the DCU? Is this not? Doctor Who. Why did we have to tell the actress, don't watch stuff before? You want them to watch that. You want them to understand the lore, the history, the deep connection fans have with these characters that have come before, because you are in a line of people who, while fundamentally different from Doctor to Doctor, are tied within the universe together. By taking her and not letting her understand that universe, you literally have taken her and put her out on an island by herself, which makes it hard for people to accept it. Writers in Hollywood need to understand that they are working for us, not us for them. If you want us to identify with characters, give us characters to identify with. If you want us to love characters, give us characters to love. Not characters to hate, not characters to pick at because they're not who they're supposed to be. Because if we followed an IP for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 in some cases, who knows better, the fans or some guy that you just hired 10 minutes ago off the street to write? Think about it, Hollywood. I guess that's a rant. Guys, again, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, the bell, the like button. Maybe help us out with that PayPal donation. Reach out to me on Twitter at chrisknight5150. Email me, chrisknight at therealreview3000.com. Instagram, Facebook, Patreon. We do have channel memberships, guys. Poe, JJ, Sith Lord 3827, Jesse Ritchie, and Lady Toriel. Those are our current members of the Real Review 3000. We appreciate them doing that for us. Thank you very much. Like I said, I guess that's my rant. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey guys, thanks for checking us out. Be sure to subscribe to both channels, and make sure to check out our friends in the Fandom Minutes. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and BitChute. And you can also send us an email at Sean@sean.khaosreacts.com and chrisknight at therealreview3000.com. And be sure to swing by our Teespring store to pick up some awesome merchandise.